Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the year again. The time of year when I and thousands of other people bombard you with our top 10 albums of the year. And as usual, I'm going to preface this by saying these are my top 10 favorite albums of the year. Because, folks, there are no best albums. And this year's been fucking tough, let me tell you, folks, in two different ways. Number one, I had to leave off a whole bunch of albums that I thought were really good. Some of which are so good that if somebody else on their list said, oh, this album is my number one album of the year, I'd be like, fair play. And then on top of that, once I got my 10 together, putting them in the order that felt right to me, because some of these are so close in how much I like them and how much I enjoy them that this is why I wait until the very last minute, because part of it is me putting it all together, but then the last part is ordering it. And for people like us, we have the shit going on in our heads. That stuff you can go down a rabbit hole and you can get lost forever and never come out trying to figure out orders for things. But here we are. I decided on my top 10 albums for 2024. You'll notice that I didn't include the word metal in there because they're never just metal albums. These are my top 10 favorite albums of the year, starting with this one at number 10. The second full-length album from Ohio death metal band 200 Stab Wounds. Manual Manic Procedures is the name of this album. And the fact that this is number 10 on my list, that shows you how strong of a fucking year this was, because I love this album. This is their first for Metal Blade, and they are just pretty straightforward as a death metal band, but brutal and catchy and just a fucking blast. If you're into death metal, this is probably on your list. So I don't even need to go into you. I'm sure a lot of people are talking about albums like this on the internet. So just know that I love it. It's my number 10. Manual Manic Procedures from 200 Stab Wounds. At number 9 from Ontario, Canada, Corrosive with Catastrophic Creation and some badass Ed Repka artwork there. Corrosive are a thrash metal band. This is their third full-length album, and it is fucking great. It's really unrelenting, brutal thrash metal for fans of early Creator, things like that. You get the idea, but it is so good. It is an album that just gets your fucking blood boiling. If you're into thrash metal, this is one that should be on your list. This band was fairly new to me when I first heard this one. And so if this band is unknown to you, check them out. Corrosive, Catastrophic Creation. Yeah, do it. Number 8, from my hometown of Austin, Texas, Transit Method with their third full-length, Other Void. These guys are a proggy rock metal band, and honestly, this is probably the strongest collection of songs that these guys have done yet. And their last album was on my top 10 of 2022. Maybe it was 21. I'm telling you, post-pandemic years, it's all a fucking jumble. But yeah, on this album, it's like the proggy parts are a little more ambitious. The hooky parts are even more catchy. And with the addition of a second guitar player and backing vocalist, this is just the most full. And I just think that they fucking nailed it. I don't know exactly the sound that they're going for, but I have an idea, and I feel like they nailed it this time. So fans of like proggy rock stuff, little bit of metalish in there. I guess there's a good amount of metal in this. But either way, it's just so fucking well done. It's an amazing album. So my number 8, an amazing album that only made it to number 8. Transit Method with Other Void. At number 7, the debut full-length album from Dissimulator. The album is called Lower Form Resistance. These guys are from Montreal, Quebec, as they say on Letterkenny. This album is a really good example of why I hate subgenres and having to label things, because this is thrash metal. It's technical thrash metal. It's got death metal style vocals. Put all those things together. This thing is an absolute motherfucker of an album. It is just absolutely thrilling. And the fact that this is the debut album of this band, sometimes albums like this come out and I'm like, this is what they're sounding like right out of the gate. So I'm very excited for where this band's going to go. Highly recommend it if you're into thrashy, technical kind of stuff. Dissimulator, Lower Form Resistance. Coming in at number 6, the third full-length album from New York death metal band Undeath. More Insane is the name of the album, and what an album cover that is, folks. So this one is pretty special, folks. Undeath are a band that I liked them in the beginning, and then on their second album, I liked them a lot more, but now they are one of my favorite modern death metal bands. My first reaction to listening to this album was it gave me the same kind of feelings that I remember 30 years back hearing The Bleeding by Cannibal Corpse for the first time. It's like death metal, but everything is fucking catchy on it. Like all the riffs, there's so many really cool, memorable riffs, and just everything, the songs, everything about this album is just the kind of death metal that it really clings to me, because for lack of a better term, it's too perfect. I don't know. It's just everything about this album. I'm just like, man, they fucking nailed every aspect of what I want out of a death metal album right here. So yeah, it's brutal, heavy, catchy. Those things normally shouldn't go together, but I love it when they do, and Undeath have done it. Top 5, folks. Wasted Death, Season of Evil. This one was a kind of a surprise for me this year because I didn't know this band, and I stumbled across something like on Instagram or somewhere where they were promoting this album. And the more that I look into this band, the more I'm surprised that I even found them, because they pretty much have no online presence whatsoever. But this album is a fucking rager, folks. So this is their debut album. They're from London, and that's all I know about them. I think I read, there were some other bands that some of these guys were in before, but they're mostly bands that I don't really recognize their names, but it doesn't matter. This album it's a little bit hardcore, a little bit grindcore, a little bit death, a little bit thrash, all that shit just put in a fucking meat grinder, and then this band comes out. It is energetic and heavy and an absolute blast of an album. The artwork. That's pretty much how it sounds. But yeah, when we're getting into my top 5, we're getting into albums that I enjoy so much that they just keep calling back to me. And I have so many fucking things to listen to, and I always have like plans on the weekends, like, oh, here's the things I'm going to listen to. And then albums like this are like, but don't you think you want to listen to me again? And I'm like, you're right, I do. But this thing is only about a fucking half hour long, so you throw this shit on, and then if you want to, just play the shit again. This album is so great, highly recommended. Just fans of brutal metal stuff. It doesn't really have a good classification. That stuff is my bread and butter. I love it, and I love this album. Wasted Death, Season of Evil. All right, folks, we are not fucking around here anymore. For number 4, Whores with War, their second full length. But these guys have been around for a bit. They did a couple EPs and then a couple full lengths, but they take their time with shit, but it's worth it. They fucking deliver. And this is, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that I think this is the best thing this band has done. And I'm very, very, very fond of their first EP, Ruiner. But I think I'm confident this is the best thing that they have done. It still has the heavy, groovy, angry sound that you've come to know and love if you're a fan of Whores. Remember I did a Bands You Should Know episode like 5 years ago on this band? But this time I feel like there's a progression in the songwriting and the overall presentation of things, because now I'm starting to hear a little bit of, dare I say, singing, shouting in key, or shouting in one key with a harmony key. Just things that sound a little bit more catchy, if you will, but it does the songs wonders. Like this, I already am coming here for the grooves and the heaviness, but now I'm coming back for the hooks. All right. So anyway, if you don't know this band, do yourself a fucking favor. Do you like bands like Helmet and Unsane and shit like that? Like the good shit that Helmet did. You know what I'm talking about? But these guys just turn that up even louder and angrier, and this is what you get. And yeah, this album's fucking great. My number 4, Whores with War.
Exquisite Corpse is the name of the game. I'm not sure I want to play. The best intentions could all go astray on any portion of that page. It's a plot made entirely of twists. This brainchild basilisk.
All right, for my number 3, this is a good reason why I always refer to this as my 10 favorites, because this is probably not one you're going to see along with a lot of the other kind of albums that I spoke about. The second solo album from Jay Robbins, this one's called Basilisk. Jay Robbins, if you don't know, was the kind of frontman, songwriter, guitar player for the band Jawbox, and then he was in a band called Burning Airlines. He's been doing shit since the 80s, and it's all just of a fucking such high quality. It blows my mind every time I listen to this album that this far along, after already being in what I consider as a legendary band and a few other really great bands, that he's just doing solo albums with material that I think stands up with the best of all of that stuff. And so for reference, this would be on Discord Records. In fact, it is on fucking Discord Records, if that gives you any idea. So post-hardcore angular kind of stuff with just some fucking amazing songwriting and performances. And J. Robbins is also one of my favorite guitar players, and the kind of stuff that he writes is when it comes to me as a musician, he's one of the people that I've looked up to since the mid 90s. But this album is so strong. It's insane how much because his first solo album was so good, but he fucking topped it with this one. So my number 3, J. Robbins with Basilisk.
And now the pressure's building up from all sides. Everyone's trying to get involved and hands on stupid advice. They keep on talking, we keep pushing, boy, but we never listen. That's why they slow games. 365 vision hits different. Woo! It's freak dreams. Boy, we never stop. This is for real.
All right, my number 2 album of the year, Freak Dreams, from Slope, a band from Germany that just came out of nowhere and surprised me with their sort of crossover hardcore funk metal thing that they do. You can use many words to describe it. I would use fun as hell. It's 3 words, but whatever. I did a standalone review of this album. I was so excited about it. And then I ended up being able to interview the 2 vocalists, and they were fucking cool as hell, and they kind of gave me an insight into where their brains are, all the guys in the band, when they write these songs. Because it's got elements that you might hear in some other bands, but overall, this is a super unique album, and it's one that I haven't wanted to stop listening to since it came out, which was early in this year. And this is their second full-length album. Their first one is also really good, but yeah, this is a special album, and if you're into a funk metal sound of days long ago, but their take on it is pretty unique and fun and enjoyable, and the sound of the record is fucking great. Can't say enough great things about this album, and even though this album is my number 2, I would have to say that if I had to pick a song of the year for me, it is the song Freak Dreams on this album. So check out that song if you don't know these guys, and just go from there. But yeah, my number 2, Freak Dreams from Slope. All right, for some of you, this is not a surprise at all. My number 1 album of the year, Fourstroke Baron with Data Diamond. Their previous album, which is called Classics, was my number 1 album. Was that one 2022? Come on, man, with the years. But in case you're unaware of this band, they're from Reno, Nevada, and this is their 4th full-length album. But these guys are prog metal, but that description doesn't seem anywhere near enough to describe. I'm sure, like, if you guys watch my stuff regularly, you've heard me talk about them enough, and maybe you even heard some songs here and there. But this album, I really think that this is the best album that they've done, and I love Classics. So talk to me again in a couple years. But I think overall, as a collection of songs, what they've done is they've created an amazing album, but also I think it's a good jumping off point for anyone that doesn't know this band, because their stuff is, for lack of a better term, kind of strange, and will hit you with different weirdness that you weren't expecting at different times. And then sometimes there's heavy ass fucking riffs, and you're like, oh, they're a metal band. But then sometimes you're like, well, no, I guess they're not a metal band. But anyway, this is the best collection of all of those things. You get some real straightforward bangers, and then some just what the fuck songs, and it does it all perfectly in a nice little package that Totally encapsulates what I think is one of the best modern bands going. And it also doesn't hurt that they are rad dudes. I got to interview the two main guys behind the band, Kirk and Matt, earlier in this year. Yeah. And they were fucking great. And not only that, like when I first got my first copy of this, it was warped and it wouldn't play. And these motherfuckers just sent me another copy. How fucking great is that? Now all I need them to do is come tour in my neck of the woods. Come on, guys. You got number one somewhere, some dude in Texas. So you need to come here. Anyway, I could talk about this album all day and they would all be words that didn't quite make sense or really highlight all the best things about this album. You just need to go listen to it. My number one album of 2024, Data Diamond from Fourstroke Baron. All right, so before we go, I think the last couple years that I did these, I also talked about favorite albums of mine from 10 years prior. So this time we'll be talking about 2014. And around that time, I wasn't really doing top 10s and I wasn't doing Old Head. Old Head, it was a thing of the future at that point. But I do remember that this was my favorite album of 2014. Guilty of Everything by Nothing. This was the first full length from the band Nothing. They've done quite a few now. And honestly, with each album, I've gotten kind of less and less interested in this band. But holy shit, when this album came out, I could not stop listening to it. And it still holds up. I still think it's a fucking amazing album. So anyway, this was my number one album. If I would have done a video 10 years ago in 2014, this would have been my number one, Guilty of Everything by Nothing. So there you have it, my top 10 favorite albums of 2024. Emphasis on favorite. I didn't say best. I swear every single year I get at least one comment from some moron who's like, how can you consider those the best? I'm like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. None of them are the best. None of them. Your favorite album is the best to you. Congratulations. But that also wraps up the year for me, the year of 2024. And heading into 2025 for the world of Old Head, there are some exciting things to come and more of the usual bullshit to come. So thank you very much for what's now going to be 6 years doing Old Head. And yeah, I appreciate all of you. Appreciate those of you who are watching right now, those who have been there in the past and maybe fell off, those who have kind of followed me through all my little endeavors and my endeavors to come. So yeah, you're all important. You're all special. You're all amazing. Be good to each other. And let's have a fucking great, I was about to say 2016. Woo! 2025? Yeah. Okay. I mean, at this point, you could just give me any numbers and I'd be like, yep, I guess that's the year. So anyway, all right, cool. Everybody, I hope everybody had great holidays and I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you want to put your favorite albums in the comments, please do so. I like the conversation about who loves what, because sometimes there'll be an album that somebody else, including me, maybe didn't hear of. And so yeah, get that shit in the comments. And thank you for watching, and I will see you all again next year.